Welcome back to the SportsBruiserz Podcast, episode 9 of the series. If you've not checked out the rest of the episodes, I'll have a link down below on the playlist on YouTube if you're watching us, or if you're on Spotify. All the rest of the 8 episodes are uploaded on there. Go check it out if you've not seen them already. If you like what you hear, follow me on Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, and so forth. If you want to get more information myself, reports, updates, breaking news, and my thoughts along the matters. And this is unfortunately, my apologies, this is a little bit of a late news for this podcast, about the divisional rounds, about the college championship game, and so forth, talking about the coaches as well, and also to maybe a little bit of Fernando Mendoza, quick notice on that. So again, unfortunately, wasn't able to get back in time because of the weather here where I live, and just wasn't able to get things settled in and make the video. Finally have, so right now, unfortunately, we are hours away from the AFC championship game, so again, really late on this notice here. But starting off with jumping right into it, without further ado, of course, being already late on top of it, let's jump into the playoffs right now. The AFC and NFC divisional rounds were great all around. Certainly, the Seahawks game was very lackluster because of the games, but overall, the divisional round was exciting. Starting off with the Broncos and Bills. Broncos pulling away with the win in overtime, 33-30, after the controversial Brandon Cooks catch, interception, however you want to phrase it as, and your thoughts with that too. Josh Allen having 4 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, again, counting the Brandon Cooks catch, interception, how you want to view it as. James Cook also fumbling early in the game as well, but Bo Nix only having the 1 interception, so certainly won the turnover battle there. Defense did enough on their side of the ball too, and again, I think more so is for the Bills, just self-inflicted wounds for them losing in that part. Broncos pull away to win again, 33-30 in overtime. Unfortunately, we found out news after the game that Sean Payton announced that Bo Nix broke his ankle and will be out for the playoffs. And it's heartbreaking to hear that. It sucks to hear because it's essentially just a lose-lose situation. Now, the Broncos still have a chance. They're still playing. They still have an opportunity to beat the Patriots today. There's no question about that. But it's definitely a tough situation. You have Jared Stidham coming in against the Patriots that have, are playing well so far. They do have their faults on defense, no doubt about that. But you have a team that has Drake May, who's playing well, Mark Vabel, who's coached that team very well in his first year in New England. It's a tall task for a guy who's not played, I think, in a couple years to now all of a sudden, hey, you're at home, which is much better, certainly in that situation. But you're at home, AFC Championship game, no pressure. If you lose, we go home. The Patriots go to the Super Bowl, no pressure on you. So it's definitely a very brutal situation to see. That sucks to see that Bo Nix will not get the opportunity to duel out Drake May in this situation, but they still have the elite defense. They still have good playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. You still have Sean Payton. We'll see what happens with that too. We'll see what Davis Webb, the quarterbacks coach, can do, or the passing coordinator can do, and help Jared Stidham in his emergency game right here. We drop to the other AFC game. We have the Patriots 28-16 over the Texans. C.J. Stroud's struggles continue in the playoffs. 4 interceptions in that game alone, and it was brutal all around. You could probably maybe bash the Patriots a little bit, saying that the point is they should have scored more than 28 given all the turnovers that C.J. Stroud has given, but they did enough to get the job done. Even with a great Texans defense, it was not able to do enough to outweigh once again C.J. Stroud having a brutal playoff game. How they still beat the Steelers 30-6 with C.J. Stroud fumbling all over the place. I think 5 fumbles in that game is beyond all of us. How they were able to escape to that. Give credit to the defense on that side of the ball, but unfortunately just couldn't. You weren't facing another Steelers team. You were facing New England Patriots, like I just talked about. For the Broncos, it's a very well-coached team. What Mike Vrabel has done, you're facing Drake May, much better situation, much better team that you're facing again. So the Texans' season does fall short there, and certainly uncertainty with C.J. Stroud's future. I mean, after a phenomenal rookie season, it has dipped down dramatically. Now you can look at offensive line, play calling, weapons around them. The good news is you will get tanked out next season. We'll see how he looks at this point with all those severe injuries he's taken early in his early career thus far. But you do get tanked out back in the rotation. We'll see what they add on that side of the ball too in the offseason, in the free agency, or in the draft. You still have Nico Collins. You have Higgins, who they drafted in the second round too. That was a little bit of a contributor. So you have some growing pieces, Schultz as well. The biggest question too is just the running game. You have Nick Chubb, who I don't expect to be back next season. Maybe they do on a cheap deal. I think I've seen some reports that Joe Mixon is unlikely to return to Houston. So again, there is a big question mark on the running game side. Who's going to be in that running back room there? Woody Marks had a bad game. I think it was 17 rushing yards. Let me pull up the stats here real quick for the box score so I can give you the precise stats here. Yeah, Woody Marks had 14 carries for 17 yards, 1.2 yards per carry. Nick Chubb 4 for 14. So, and Woody Marks had a good, has some good games here and there, but I think overall they have to really revamp that running game for C.J. Stroud and for this offense, especially for C.J. Stroud, because I'm not going to pin it all on that aspect of it. He needs to play better, and they have a big question mark about, as right now we don't know the certainty of his fifth-year option, if they're going to pick that up or they're going to decline that and force him to play his final year on his deal and wait and see what he does in his fourth season. Because right now, I don't think anyone should be comfortable giving C.J. Stroud big money. They shouldn't. He's played bad the last 2 years compared to what he did in his rookie season. I mean, there were some parts in his rookie season we were talking about MVP conversations at some point. And we were putting him up there as one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen from a quarterback. And the fact that he's just the fall off has been so dramatic as it's been is concerning. Again, is it all on him? No, there is some valid reasons what you could put on other aspects of the team and the offense. But again, it still falls on him. He still needs to play better. So we'll see how that plays out with Houston and what they do moving forward with that one. Moving over to the NFC, the biggest blowout one was the Seattle Seahawks over the San Francisco 49ers, 41-6. I know you've had some, of course, 49ers players after the game chime in saying that the game would have been different if they would have been fully healthy. And to a point, yes, it would have been different if they were fully healthy, having Nick Bosa and everyone else on that team too. Brandon Ayuk, that situation plays out there. Also unlikely to return next season as well. But this is a 49ers team that was good enough to compete. You look at what it did against Philadelphia, 23-19, and that was still, they had some injuries. Eagles, they did. Lane Johnson was the biggest one in that wild card game, but they still have more enough pieces to compete and be better than 41-6 in that score. They, especially the 6 points, they are much better and capable of doing that. Yes, would a fully healthy 49ers team do better? But you could say that for every team. Really, you could say for any team all across the board, if you're dealing with injuries, yes, the obvious is they would have been playing better. But again, this team is still good enough to do better than what they did in that game. And you look at what Sam Darnold really had to do in the one. He wasn't asked to do a lot. 12-17, 124, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, only sacked him 2 times. He was not asked to do a lot. The running game was great. You have Kenneth Walker with 19 carries for 116 yards and 3 touchdowns. You had, really relatively in the box scores, you held Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was phenomenal this year, to really nothing. He did score a touchdown, of course, but he only had 3 catches for 19 yards. Your leading receiver was Cooper Kupp, who hasn't done too much this season, 5 of 60. Kenneth Walker, 3 of 29. Rashid Shaheed, no catches in the game. He did have a couple rushes here, 2 for 27. So you look at the passing attack, you really limited Sam Darnold and this offense. You did enough to win the game. You did enough to, on that side of the ball, think, okay, if I gave this to 49ers fans and I gave the box score, or at least a stat sheet of Sam Darnold, 12-17, 124, 1 touchdown, you feel pretty confident that you won the game. You feel pretty confident with that because all right, we limited Sam Darnold. We kind of maybe rattled him a little bit. Maybe we made him to what he was, the persona of the stereotype of not playing well in the playoffs, not playing well in big games. We did it. We did a job. We did our job. We limited. He didn't really do too much. Jackson Smith-Njigba, who led the league in receiving yards, only had 19 receiving yards. We feel pretty confident. Well, it's because the offense didn't do anything. Kenneth Walker ran for 116 and ran for 3 touchdowns. When you look at the other side of the ball for Brock Purdy, 15 of 27, 140, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked 2 times as well. Mac Jones did come in late in the game to take over for Brock Purdy, 2 for 4 for 4 yards. Brock Purdy was also your leading rusher, 5 of 37. And you look at what the defense did for Seattle, they stifled everything. McCaffrey, 11 of 35, completely neutralized him. He did have 5 catches for 39 yards, but even then, still neutralized him all across the board. You had Jordan James, 6 of 28. Brian Robinson Jr., 3 of 4. Kyle Juszczyk, 1 for -3 yards. For the receiving game, you made other people step up, and you had Jake Tones, if I said this right, Atonis, how you pronounce his last name. I always butcher the names, I apologize, always horrible with that. But you have Jake that had 5 of 59. You will take that. You will take that over anyone else, well, Ricky Pearsall or George Kittle or Juwan Jennings. You will take that over any of those other guys because you're making someone else beat you. And even that, it accumulated to nothing. McCaffrey, like I said, 3 of 39. Juwan Jennings, 2 of 23. Kyle Juszczyk, 1 catch for 7 yards. You have Ricky Pearsall was held to 2 targets, 0 catches, 0 yards. They did a pretty good job. Unfortunately, Kittle did get hurt in the game as well. Very unfortunate to see that. But I'm sorry, Philadelphia. That was the block. I apologize. I don't know why I'm way off on that. See what happens when we take a little bit of time off from the games, not do the videos right away. Apologize. George Kittle got hurt in the Philadelphia game, so you're already in a game. Maybe correct myself. You're already in a game without George Kittle. Going back to the injuries, of course, it'd be different if you did have Kittle. Absolutely, it would be, and as well as Ayuk if he was on the field. But in the day, they still had enough to get the job done. They did that. They showed that against Philadelphia. They showed that in the rest of the season, being 12-5 on the year. They did more enough to, with Kyle Shanahan and his creative genius, and Brock Purdy and Mac Jones when he played well, when he stepped in and played. They did more enough to be creative. And this is a team that, again, yes, you were down George Kittle, but you still had Pearsall, you still had Jennings, you still had McCaffrey. At times, you have Kyle Juszczyk. Doesn't blow off on the stat sheet, but still is productive at times and makes good plays. So you have more enough going against Seattle, and you got just steamrolled. That's what came down to. Seattle was just a far superior team, and I think that's the biggest thing is what Seattle is asking for right now. Especially from when you look at Sam Darnold, this is the type of game that Sam Darnold's going to have to play. Now going to the Rams game, we'll get to that in a second. Talking about my quick AFC Championship previews, but it's just Sam Darnold's going to have to do a little bit more. I do not see a scenario where you can have a similar stat sheet like this and beat the Rams. You're going to have to be better than 12 of 17, 124, 1 touchdown. It's going to have to be a little bit more than that. Maybe 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's going to have to be a little bit more than just this, because this is a stat sheet. If I give the Rams, they probably walk away winning this game too, unless Seattle's defense just goes off and just stifles the Rams' offense there. But I don't see that happening. But again, the 49ers had more enough. Again, even with the injuries, the excuses they want to throw out there, they still had more of enough opportunity to play much better in the Seattle game. And getting into the final game, to the more exciting one, the other exciting one outside the Bills and Broncos was the Rams and Bears. This was a nice back and forth one. Caleb Williams pulling his magic once again late in the fourth quarter, throwing a prayer pass, if you want to call it that, corner of the end zone. They get a touchdown to go into overtime, and you figured Caleb Williams marching down the field, they are going to win this game. If it felt like that, Rams couldn't do anything on their first possession. The Bears get the ball back. Caleb Williams marched on the field, and you feel like, oh, this is going to be it. Caleb Williams is going to have another signature win and put the Bears in the conference championship game, going to Seattle for this NFC championship game. And unfortunately, DJ Moore is lazy. He ran the wrong route, gave up, however you want to put it, as Caleb Williams throws a pass to DJ Moore, and whatever happened in that situation for DJ Moore there, gave up, lazy, however you want to phrase it as, results in an interception. Matthew Stafford and the offense marches down the field to kick the game-winning field goal. 20-17 is a score there. And again, it's very unfortunate because the Bears would have had a legit chance. I mean, as well as the Rams. The Bears that would have been a great match to see Chicago and Seattle in the conference championship game, especially with Caleb Williams. What have done? The last 2 games that Caleb Williams has played, especially in the fourth quarter, if you talk about clutch, you talk about turning a switch on and just playing at a different level and elevating, he's done that. He did that against Chicago. He did that against Green Bay, where he scored 25 points in the fourth quarter to win. He showed that late in the game against the Rams, where again he throws a insane pass late in the game to tie the game up at 17 to go in overtime, march down the field, and unfortunately again a botched miscommunication there between the quarterback and receiver, whoever you want to pin it on, and it ends in that results in again them basically losing the game. Again, Rams march on the field, score a touchdown there. And it sucks because this was a fun Chicago team. A lot of good pieces all across the board, especially offensively. Ben Johnson, his first season there, did a great job with that team there, and certainly elevated Caleb Williams to be much better in his sophomore season. Even though the completion percentage was down compared to his rookie season, played better than his rookie year all around, and more importantly, protects him. Much better job protecting him. Give the GM credit for bringing the acquisitions for the offensive line and building that offensive line back up for Caleb, because he did. It was phenomenal, and that's a huge part of what really helped Caleb Williams in his sophomore year. He went from 68 sacks in his rookie season to 24 in 2025. Huge difference there. So give credit to the front office and Ben Johnson of what they were able to do to help Caleb Williams. Again, I don't like that the completion percentage went down this year from 62.5 to 58.1, But again, overall, did play well there. You look at the touchdowns, did go up by 7 from 20 to 17. Did have one more interception from 6 to 7. You will take that. And almost was a 4,000-yard passer this season as well. So again, overall, I think a successful season by Caleb Williams and this Bears offense, or this Bears team in general. Again, sucks that it did come out to that final result, because it just felt like they were right there to make the conference championship and talk about Seattle and Chicago today. But Rams find a way to pull out the win. That's a very battle-tested team, veteran type of team, especially with Matthew Stafford, that, at least for my pick, will probably win the MVP. I know it goes back and forth between him and Drake May. I do favor Matthew Stafford, even with kind of like towards the end of the season struggling a little bit and having some bad performances, won his first MVP of his career. And they're set up right there. You have Puka Nacua, one of the top wide receivers in the league. Devontae Adams, once again, leading the league in touchdown catches. You look at Kyron Williams, the offense. Sean McVay is creative genius. The defense as well. Everything is working. And they did have a scare course at Carolina, 34-31. It felt like, the Panthers are going to pull up a massive upset. They find a way to win late in that game. And again, it's certainly a grind-out game against Chicago. Find a way to win at the game, under the game. Force a turnover by Caleb and give Matthew Stafford one more chance to win the game there. And he does, as he did in the Carolina game, where late in the game, give the ball to Stafford in Stafford's hands, marches down the field, scores a touchdown, puts the pressure on Bryce Young. They're not able to do anything. And this is, again, give credit to Sean McVay and them. They've been wildly successful since he's been there, and they're certainly having their certainly a quick rebuild, if you want to call it, as after a couple a little bit disappointing seasons last year. Should have beat the Eagles, in my opinion. We're right there to beat the Eagles and go to the conference championship. So again, overall, they have certainly a good chance. I picked the Rams. I made a bracket. I picked the Rams to go all the way and win the Super Bowl. I have to go back and see, because I think I did have Seattle and the Rams at this point here, but I picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. I know it seemed very wary, very shaky in that wild card game, but they have everything in mind. You have certainly the veteran, great quarterback in Matthew Stafford, who's been there, done that, won a Super Bowl for the Chargers his first year, has been in those situations now multiple times with the Rams, and he knows what he's doing. And he could certainly solidify his legacy even more if he goes and wins another Super Bowl, another MVP. That would be immense. That would certainly stamp the Hall of Fame in his favor right there. You could say that already. And I know people are very wary about Stafford because of maybe the lack of Pro Bowls and other aspects of it too, really coming late in his career. But he has everything now. If he can add an MVP, if he ultimately wins the MVP, but if he adds an MVP this year, a Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP, absolutely, this guy is a slam dunk Hall of Famer. No question about that. 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, an MVP on top of that, along with everything else he's done in his career. Absolutely. There's no question. There is a lot that can go for his legacy right here for Matthew Stafford. And as well as the other side for Drake May. You talk about the legacy of him trying to live up to the last great quarterback in the New England with Tom Brady. Imagine if he goes to his second season and goes to the Super Bowl and wins it, whether it's against Seattle or the Rams, wins it in his second year. What's the talk going to be about in Massachusetts? This is the next Tom Brady. People are going to go crazy with it. He won it in his second year. Look at the early success Tom Brady had. The dynasty is back. People are going to flip out if Drake May goes to the Super Bowl and wins it, because the ceiling is limitless for them. It is. It's going to feel like that for Drake May if the Patriots can get another young quarterback to win a Super Bowl. And guess what? He's still in a rookie contract, and you could still add on to the team as well with what Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels have done. So again, there is a lot. The 2 biggest legacies really is Drake May and Matthew Stafford. They have the most to benefit from this, as well as it'd be another. It's certainly be impressive for Seattle if they did win. But certainly Sam Darnold would not get as much credit as other quarterbacks would, because even though he's played well the last 2 years in the regular season, what he's done with the Vikings last year and what he's done with the Seahawks this year, he still won't get the credit because he's a decent quarterback, but nothing too crazy, nothing too special with Sam Darnold. We would look at the Broncos if they go all the way to win another Nick Foles type of run, really, where if he plays well in the conference championship and plays well in the Super Bowl, it's another Nick Foles situation for the NFL there. Again, whoever faces Seattle or the Rams. But getting to my picks here for the conference championship real quick, kind of blending everything all together. They're going to apologize for the late video for the updates of all this. Starting off with the AFC for the Broncos and the Patriots. It's a close call, because if you're just looking at solely at the quarterback matchup between Drake May and Jarrett Stidham, It's a pretty obvious answer of who you're going to pick there, but there's more to it than that. The Broncos have a better defense than the Patriots. The weapons are, I think, even. I would certainly give a slight edge to the New England because of just more of the running game, because Harvey and them, it hasn't been the best this season, especially when J.K. Dobbins being out. I think J.K. Dobbins' status for this game is up in the air still. If there's, at least from what I've seen, if I missed it, I apologize. I don't think there's anything official yet of if he's going to be returning or not. Even if he does come back, how effective is he going to be being out for a while? As long as he has been, who knows? It's certainly going to be a help. I mean, I'd love to have J.K. Dobbins back, the best running back they had this season, most effective. And you look at the matchup too, at head coach Sean Payton, Mike Vrabel. I mean, I guess in terms of the resumes, you would trust Sean Payton at this point here than Mike Vrabel. But with that being said, I'm going to give the edge to the Patriots. I think the Patriots will go in there and beat the Broncos. And unfortunately, it's going to come down to what I said in the beginning with the Jared Stidham. I know you shouldn't just solely look at that because there's more aspects than just the quarterback part. I just don't know what Stidham's going to be. I know he's been with the Broncos for a few seasons, got there in 2023. They do have all the confidence in the world in him. It's tough for me to think that he's going to do enough more than what Drake May is. It is. I know Drake May has some issues, even though they've done well. They beat the Chargers by 13 in the wild card. They beat the Texans by 12 in the divisional rounds. But he's had some issues here and there, some turnovers. Is that something the Broncos can take full advantage of? I'm sure they can get a turnover to Drake May. I just don't know if Jared Stidham in this offense can capitalize on those mistakes as well. So I'm going to, unfortunately, I don't want to be one of those people that just look solely at the quarterback matchups. I'm going to take Drake May and Mike Vrabel over Sean Payton and Jared Stidham. If Bo Nix was playing this game, I would favor the Broncos. I would. With how gritty and how tough Bo Nix plays and finds ways to win, he's a winner. He is. He's shown that, especially this season. I would have favored the Broncos if Bo Nix was in this game. Unfortunately, with that, I'm going to favor the Patriots in this one. The Patriots are going back to the Super Bowl at Santa Clara on February 8th. Moving on to Seattle and the Rams. Probably a little bit more exciting one out of the two matchups here. It's a very tough matchup in this one. And I mean, you already know my answer. What I've already said when I was talking about the Rams here. I do have the Rams winning this one. I think they are going to find a way, even though the Seahawks have a great defense, an elite defense, and what McDonald's done there has been phenomenal. Of what he's done in his short tenure with the Seahawks. I just think it's tough. It's tough for me to see Seahawks, even though they've shown up before. It's just tough for me again to see the Rams with Stafford, with Williams, with Adams, with Puka Nacua, with Sean McVay as on play calling duties. They're going to be able to stifle the Rams once again. You had the wild overtime game of Week 16 against the Rams, 38-37 overtime, and then earlier that year too, they lose 21-19 in that one. It's just, again, it's close, but I'm going to trust Matthew Stafford in that situation, who's been there, done that, a team that's more battle-tested at this point here, that at least if you look at Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford in terms of that aspect, as opposed to Sam Darnold. I'm not going to throw Sam Darnold on the bus and I still have, he's bad, he's a choke artist. He played well against San Francisco, but he wasn't asked to do a lot in that game, and I think the Rams are going to force him. They're going to force his hand and maybe make him a little bit uncomfortable, and make him and Seattle's going to have to ask a little bit more from Darnold. And I said that in the talking about the Seattle game. In order for the Seahawks to win, Sam Darnold's going to have to do more than what he did against San Francisco. He is. Is Darnold capable of doing that? He is. He has no question. No doubt in my mind. I think he's capable of doing more. In a game, more than what he did against San Francisco. But I think the Rams are just going to be too much. I think they're going to have the right plays, the right scheme to stifle Sam Darnold, force a turnover or two, and give the ball to Matthew Stafford's hands for extra possessions and be able to come out on top and win this. It's going to be a close game, no question about that. I'm not going to say it's a blowout. It's not going to be 41-6 like we saw, but it's going to be a tough matchup. The Rams are, but I do think ultimately the Rams will find a way to win like they've done the last two games late in the game and punch their ticket to Santa Clara to take on the New England Patriots. And it's going to be a recap for the divisional round and a little bit of a preview of my picks for the AFC Championship game as well, who's going to win those two. So now moving over to the college football playoffs, more importantly, the championship game. What a game that was between Indiana and Miami. Indiana finishes, if you want to say, their Cinderella story in terms of no one really expected them, even though they were the number one team, of course, but no one really expected them to win. And there was certainly uncertainty going to in the playoffs, how they're going to be, especially when you look at teams with first-round buys. Was not a great resume for that. 0 for 4 last year in that aspect, and then 1 for 3 for this year. Indiana being the only team that come out on top, and they had no issue going all the way there. They blew out Alabama 38-3. You look at what they did against Oregon, 56-22, and they did have some problems against Miami. Miami, give Miami credit. It was a back and forth game. The stat sheet, Mendoza wasn't too crazy in this one. 16-27, 186, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, which certainly matters as well. But again, when you look at the stat sheet here, and if I gave this to Miami fans, like, hey, this is what Mendoza's going to have for the game, along with the rushing attack with 7 rushes for -8 yards and 1 touchdown, you would say we feel pretty confident that we beat Indiana. Similar to what I said about the 49ers with Sam Darnold. But it was just the biggest key here was special teams. Getting that block punt for a touchdown was absolutely massive. It was. To put them up 17-7, I think, at that point there was huge. That was a big turning point there. Miami fought back. You look at what Mark Fletcher Jr. did in that game. He ran wild, 17 carries for 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. He played well. He did the defense, was giving Mendoza some problems. But again, when you look at for Mendoza and what Cignetti did late in the game, it was phenomenal. I was a little bit worried because they were taking too much time to decide plays and burning timeouts when there was still plenty of time left on the clock for Miami. So I was certainly worried from the aspect like, they kind of fallen, they kind of cracking a little bit at this point. And the one decision I do not like was the 3rd and 5, taking the ball out of your quarterback's hands. If you were there to try and get the kill shot, if you're there to seal the game away, put the ball in your Heisman winner's hands and let him do something, because he was doing that in the game. Especially that also his signature play was, I think it was on the 4th down, getting the touchdown to again put him up to expand the lead as well. And again, if you trust him at that point on a 4th down play to run the ball and to extend to the end zone and score, and you trust him in other aspects too. Like, you look at the great throws that he made on key 3rd downs too, and give credit to Bakker, who made phenomenal catches too. You look at Amari Cooper Jr. as well, Elijah Sarart as well. I mean, those guys made some phenomenal catches. Don't get me wrong; you still need to give credit to the receiver, but Mendoza had some great touch and great feel on the passes as well, putting in the right spot for his receivers to make plays in that one. Trust the Heisman winner at that moment there on 3rd and 5, and they run the ball, and I felt like it was being too conservative, too safe. I'm like, I think Miami's going to come back. I think Carson Beck is going to march down the field, and they were making some plays happen here and there, and then Beck just throws into double coverage there. If he didn't see the safety, got confused there at that point there with the extra help there, and throws an interception, and ultimately ends the game there. But it was a nice, for once, the last few years, it was a great national championship to watch. It was a nice back and forth game between Indiana and the Miami. You felt like maybe Indiana at one point was pulling away. Miami fights back and gets back close to this one. Again, 27-21 was the score there. Fernando Mendoza being your offensive MVP to wrap up a great career they had at Indiana. Short, 1 year, I should say, but a great season with Indiana. I should phrase it as Heisman winner, MVP, national champion, all across the board there. Maxwell Award winner. You go down the list of everything, and also declared for the NFL draft, and is presumably going to be the first overall pick and going to be a Las Vegas Raider when that time comes, when the draft happens. So it got absolutely phenomenal season by Indiana, especially more give credit to Cignetti. This is a team that had no 5-star recruits. I know people are going to chime in about the age of the players and so forth, but other teams have the opportunity as well. Other teams have 5-star players as well. Other teams spent more money. When I look at the NIL, when they were comparing the 12 teams in the playoff format, Indiana was kind of lower at the list there. There were more teams that spent more, and 2 of the teams that they beat on that list spent more than them. So again, you could throw the age and stuff like all that as an excuse, but Cincinnati and what he was able to do there, again, with no 5-star recruits, and what the turnaround that he had for a team that has the second most losses in college football history, is legendary. His turnaround in Indiana in 2 years is absolutely phenomenal. It's historic, and it will go down in history of what he did there. There is no question. I don't know how Indiana is going to be next year. They're losing big pieces as well. Mendoza, Cooper, Sayart Surratt is going to be going to the draft as well, presumably, we should say. And a few other players too. So we'll see what's going to happen with the quarterback situation. We'll see if they can repeat. I don't know if they can repeat being national champions. I doubt that, and be 16-0. But what he did there in 2 years, you go back all the way to James Madison as well. But what he did with this program is nothing short of, if you want to say, just magic. It's just a miracle, however you want to phrase that. It is impressive of what he did there. If we go back 2 years ago, before Cincinnati even got there, we said, hey, 2 years down the line, Indiana is going to be undefeated and they're going to win the national championship. Everyone would be looking at you crazy. They would. They would laugh at you. They would criticize you. They said, there's no way Indiana can beat this. And they were. You go back to 2025, what were they in? Oh, let me go back to, what were they in 2024? They were 11-2 on the year. They lost to Notre Dame 27-17. Also in that game, they lost earlier that year. In the second last game of the season, they lost 38-15 against number 2 Ohio State. And there's question marks of, cupcake schedule, got in, didn't really face anyone tough. Well, it was different this year. It was. They had good opponents. You look at, they beat number 9 Illinois at the time earlier in the year, 63-10. They beat Oregon twice. The first matchup being October 11th, 30-20 at Oregon. At that point there, you look at what they did at the end of the season in the Big Ten championship game at Indianapolis against number 1 Ohio State, 13-10. Mendoza also too, making clutch throws down the stretch there as well. You look at what he did in the playoffs, blowing out number 9 Alabama, blowing out Oregon, again beating them, and it was a close matchup against Miami, but beating Miami. That was a good team. It had great defense, and if it was almost their Cinderella story in a way, because people kind of criticized them, saying they should have gotten in. Notre Dame should have gotten over them, and they made it all the way to the championship game. But give Cignetti and this team credit. They had a phenomenal season, historic, no question. And it's been nothing short of a miracle in what he's done there. Again, what's Cignetti right now is already in the history books. What he did is historic, and we will always remember what he did with Indiana in the first years. And again, we'll see what happens next year and the years beyond. But the fact that he turned this program around that fast is amazing. It is impressive. And if people are going to be trying to scramble around next year and trying to find the next Indiana who's going to have a huge turnaround like Indiana, I don't know if you can be able to do that, because again, I think it takes the right guy as well, like Cignetti, and what he's done there. Again, going back to what he did with James Madison as well, where he got his name, really put his name on the map there with James Madison, and what he did with Indiana right now, no question about it. It's all on him, and what he's been able to build with that program and in such a short period of time is insane to think about. But again, it was a great championship to watch. Like I said, probably one of the best ones we've seen in the last few years. Nice back and forth matchup there as well. And again, for Mendoza, capping off a great college season. Again, presumably going to be the first overall pick in 2026, and will be a Las Vegas Raider announced relatively soon when they do get to decide the pick. RIP to his career potentially. We'll see what happens when he goes to Las Vegas and the aspect of it. So people are concerned about, can he translate into the professional level at the NFL. I do think he has some good pieces there. Brock Bowers, you have Tom Brady, that's going to help with them as well. There is some certainly building blocks there. We don't know the coaching staff as well. I know he was on TV and people have been bashing him, saying they have a great coaching staff, even though there's nobody there really, no head coach to say. So again, great guy. I mean, we listen to his interviews. It's awesome to hear him. Very humble, very a good person all around. So hopefully for his sake, I'm pulling from him. He can succeed, play well. We'll see what happens again when we get to the NFL draft there, but we don't have to wait that long for his name to be spoken to the fans. And again, let's go wrap up the college championship game. Like I said, 27-21, the score for Indiana, and wrapping off a undefeated season 16-0. Now getting to the NFL coaches. Yesterday, it was a good time. I kind of waited here. Yesterday, we were given the big news for the Steelers, where they hire former Packers and Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. And I'm a little bit disappointed with this one. It's not a horrible pick. It's just disappointing because I think it's very lackluster, because I don't think you're really making that much of an upgrade or downgrade. I think the team overall is just in the same boat, really. I don't think that there's a higher ceiling with Mike McCarthy. Maybe because you won a playoff game. Big jump there. But again, I thought it was a team that was going to maybe swing for someone else and maybe get a younger coach, especially offensive minded, and go into a different direction. And with Mike McCarthy, I think you kind of still continue the same theme that Mike Tomlin had down the stretch his last few years. Again, going 7 playoff games without winning. Going 7 playoff games without a win. You look at the last time they advanced in the playoffs was back in 2017. Or 2016, I should say, when they won a playoff game. They were one and dones after that. They did make the divisional round in 2017, having that bye, losing to Jacksonville at home, and ever since then, it's been wild card loss after wild card loss after wild card loss. So again, I'm not too upset. I mean, I'd say it's an absolutely horrible pick for Mike McCarthy. Very lackluster, very disappointing. I thought they would have gone to a different direction, especially offensive minded, and try and change things up there. Are you picking McCarthy because you have a higher floor? And you're not going to have maybe certainly a better chance of not having a losing season, maybe. But I think there's he certainly has a higher floor, not a higher ceiling to elevate this team there. That I think what the Steelers want and what I think they need at this point there to really change things up for this culture and what they've been the last decade or so, really. So again, a little disappointed with the Steelers pick. Not horrible. I think it's okay. It's mediocre. It's okay. We look at everyone else here. I'll look at Tennessee right here. We have Robert Saleh that was hired on January 19th. A little bit surprised they would go in this direction as well. Again, I thought they would try and go for an offensive-minded coach to really pair up with Cam Ward. We don't know yet who the offensive coordinator is going to be as of right now. There were some reports that Brian Daboll could be the OC if he does not get the Buffalo Bills job. We'll see how it plays out there. But again, I thought they would really go more offensive-minded, whether it's Mike McDaniels, Brian Daboll. You look at maybe they're waiting for. You thought maybe they would wait for Kubiak for the Seahawks, Davis Webb, who's raved about as well. Cliff Kingsbury. I'm just kind of naming a lot of offensive coordinators as well. I thought they would go in a direction like that. And is Robert Saleh? It's going to be again another tough situation. He was in a dysfunctional place with the Jets. Can you put too much all the blame on him? No, there's certainly more aspects to that than Robert Saleh. Is he ready to be? Be able to go into another, in a way, dysfunctional organization, have problems there as to rebuilding, have a lot of things to do there. I don't know. I mean, you have your franchise quarterback, at least presumably right now, in Cam Ward. You do have some pieces of Simmons on the defensive side too, but there's still a lot that needs to be done. You have to rebuild the wide receiver room, even with Pollard. You still have to get running backs. Have to build the offense on it a little bit more. A lot of pieces needed on defense, so there is a lot of things needed there. Is Saleh the guy? I'm surprised he would go in that direction. We'll see what he can do with Tennessee in that one. I'm not saying that I'm the biggest fan of the move there. Again, I thought similarly what I said just to the Steelers. I thought it'd be the offensive minded coach there as well. So I'm a little bit disappointed with the selection there. I think they missed out on this one. I think they did. I think they're trying to get someone like Mike Vrabel, which they should have just kept Vrabel at this point there, because I think he's a great coach. I think the front office screwed him over with getting rid of AJ Brown, not being able to give him a quarterback. Oh, I'm sorry, they got Will Levis as a quarterback, and you see how everything plays out there since he's left. It's been disastrous for that. When you look at what Callahan did there in a short tenure for Saleh, I don't have too high hopes for Robert Saleh at Tennessee. Again, I feel like they need something different. I do. I think they need something different than Saleh. Surprised he would go there. I thought maybe he would stay with the San Francisco 49ers for another year and wait for somebody to open up better. But we'll see how it plays out with Tennessee there. Again, Robert Saleh got hired on the 19th there. Moving up there, you have probably the biggest name. One of the ones early on was John Harbaugh, and that was the number one selection I had for when I made my video on Harbaugh. Soon after when he got fired, I had the New York Giants as the number one spot there. I am going there too. On top of that, there is questions about Joe Shane and stuff like that, other aspects of the team. But you have Jackson Dart. Lost it for a second. You have a young quarterback in Jackson Dart, a great rookie season. Really, you look at the offense when he stepped in when you went from Russell Wilson to Jackson Dart. It was much better because, of course, Jackson Dart could do more, especially with his legs, and is a bit more explosive and his what he can do there. You have Scadaboo, who when he comes back, I don't know if he can sustain what he's doing. It's highlight reels. It's exciting. It's fun to talk about on social media. I don't think it's sustainable in the NFL of how he plays there. He's looking for contact, which again, it's cool to see. It's fun. Is it sustainable? I'm not sure, but he's a nice rotational piece in that running back room if he's someone that is going to keep getting hurt because of how violent he plays that position. But you do have some, you do have a guy in Scadaboo if you want to add someone else in the room as well. Again, you still have running back at least. You have Malik Neighbors, you have Wan'Dale Robinson, who they should really lock down in a contract as well as Wan'Dale Robinson being over 1,000 yards in the absence with Malik Neighbors. We'll see how Neighbors is coming back from that torn ACL. But you have two really good wide receivers there as well. You have a decent offensive line that still needs a lot of work to do. You do have a good front. You do have a good front four with Abdul Carter, Dexter Lawrence, with Kayvon Thibodeaux. Kayvon Thibodeaux. Again, I'm butchering names again. I'm sorry. So you look at that. You have Brian Burns, of course, 16.5 sacks, absolutely phenomenal. But they still need help to do. There's a drastic drop-off between, look at the sack leaders, between Brian Burns and the second leading guy, Abdul Carter. You go from 16.5 to 4. So you're hoping it's only a bump up in his sophomore year with Abdul Carter. But again, you still have a highly talented player there. Brian Burns, Carter, you look at Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeaux. Secondary is in shambles. I will say that they do need a lot of help with the secondary. That is something that's a big focus there, a big need that needs to be fixed there. But everything else, the front four, the passing attack, I think is good enough. Again, even with a very dramatic drop off from Brian Burns to the second leading sack leader, you do have more than enough there. You do have enough to do something there with, again, Dexter Lawrence, Darius Alexander, and the name list goes on and on there. Secondary needs a lot of work to do, and linebacker too. On top of that, I know Brian Burns is a linebacker, Carter's a linebacker, but it's more of the pass rush ability with those guys. That needs to step up more. I think everything behind those guys is needed for drastic improvement. No question about that. But again, I think you have more than enough offensive pieces there to entice Harbaugh and what he's doing there, and I think really focus on the defense. They're trying to build up that side of the ball, again, especially the secondary between him and Joe Shane. We'll see what happens with that. I do believe Joe Shane should have been out the door with Brian Daboll. They decided to keep him for whatever reason, so we'll see if he can have a little bit of redemption with Harbaugh and get things going on there and get things fixed in the right direction. But I do like the hire. Again, you bring a stable name, a respectable name, a person that's had great success with Baltimore and what he's done there for his whole tenure, for 18 seasons there. That is some of the Giants need. I got people kind of throughout there. They need someone young. They need somebody fresh. But at this point there, I think they've tried that. They've been there. They've done that. And it just hasn't worked out there. You get the respect. You get the pedigree with John Harbaugh there. I like the hire. No question. Again, I had the Giants as the number one spot for him. And that's where he lands, between him and the Falcons. And he goes to the number one destination that I pick. We'll see what Harbaugh can do in his first season in 2026 with the Giants. I do expect him to be a lot better, a lot more disciplined. Maybe they'll have the fourth quarter collapses there as well. We'll see how it plays out there. But again, you're getting the pedigree and what he's done with the Ravens is certainly a great destination for the Giants and what they landed there in Harbaugh. Next for the Miami Dolphins, Jeff Hafley, the DC for the Packers. Again, a little bit surprised that they would go in this direction. I thought they'd maybe go for another offensive head coach. You look at Joe Brady. Maybe they would have gone with the Bills' former head coach and Sean McDermott. And that one, and the other aspects too, again, for offensive side too, Kubiak, Davis Webb, the list goes on and on for there. Brian Daboll, if you want to throw in there, even though they didn't ask to interview him, nor did anyone else really for Brian Daboll. But I'm a little bit surprised for that. And it's a bad look because you look at what the Packers did in the wild card matchup, gave it 25 points in the fourth quarter and collapsing there really at that moment there. It's a little, I will say it's a little puzzling. It is. I'm a little bit surprised they would go in this direction, especially with a coordinator like Jeff Hafley. We'll see. We'll see what they can do there. I did write some stats down for what the Packers defense looked like this season. You look at what they're middle of the road. They're 12th in total yards, 11th against the pass, 18th against the run, 11th in points, tied for 14th in third down percentage. And it's a little bit it was a little bit lackluster. It was decent. And again, the collapse in the wild card game against Chicago definitely left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths at that point. And I've seen some Miami fans be a little puzzled by this pick here. So we'll see. We'll see if it plays out. I don't know what to really put the expectations on Jeff Hafley for Miami. Maybe he can turn things around there. But the defense certainly was an issue for Miami this season. They did, of course, pick it up towards the end of the season like it did last year with Michael Daniels, but certainly there is a lot of things to be fixed on that team as well. So we'll see what happens, but Jeff Hafley was hired January 19th, the Packers DC. We look at for the Ravens. Another one that really puzzled me too is Jesse Minter from the DC from the Chargers. I thought especially with Lamar Jackson, you would go to a offensive-minded coach. I thought you would. You had Joe Brady interview twice there. It seemed like that was the pick there. They were going to have someone like you look at what he's did with the Bills. That was going to be a nice transition to Lamar Jackson or any other offensive mind in that aspect there. But you look at for Jesse Minter, what he did with the Chargers was great statistically. When I look at the rankings, they were top 10 everything. They were second in total yards. They were fifth against the pass. They were eighth against the run. They were ninth against points. They were fifth on third down percentage. So you look at that, and you look at the criticism with the Ravens was the defense. It did get better as the year went on, but that was a little criticism was the defense. Hey, that's the best resume of all the defensive-minded coaches right now. You look at go back to Robert Saleh. There was plenty of injury, of course, so there is some excuse there. But you look at Saleh, 18th in total yards, 25th in pass, 11th in run, 13th in points, 19th on third down percentage. Very, very lackluster. Very brutal to see that, which is why I'm not the biggest fan of Saleh getting the Titans head coaching job. I think they should have went into a different direction. I think they made a mistake once again. We'll see what that. Hopefully for their sake, I'm wrong. Miami, I think they made a mistake with that as well. Hopefully, as a Bills fan, hopefully I'm not wrong. Look at the perspective of the Dolphins fans, hopefully I am wrong. But the Chargers, there, you look at what they did with the defense. They did well, even with how bad the offense played in that game, in that wildcard game against the Patriots. They still held them to 13 points. They still did. Now, did Justin Herbert have help? No, he was getting beat up all over the place with that battered offensive line. If you look at the play calling there as well, with Greg Rowland being gone too, on top of that, Mike McDaniels presumably is going to be the next OC there, which is a huge upgrade. But the defense did its job. It held them to 13 points. It was just the offense, for whatever reason. If you want to throw it on the offensive line, you want to play on play calling, you look at Justin Herbert, the defense did its job there. It held them to 13 points. That should be more enough to win the game. So I do like it there. I got a little puzzled because I just not think they were going to go in this direction. I don't think it's a horrible pick. Again, it's up in the air. We'll see what happens with Jesse Minter with the Ravens. Again, that was one that a lot of Ravens fans were puzzled with, that they would go in that direction, which I am too, to a point. I did not see that. It felt like Joe Brady, because he had a couple interviews there, and it felt like, okay, they feel comfortable with that. To look at what the Bills did, the success they've had there, and what Lamar Jackson can do, that seems like a good fit there all across the board. You look at his tenure there. In previous years, he was with Harbaugh as a defensive coordinator in Michigan from 22 to 23, was with the coaching staff with Harbaugh once again with the Chargers from 24 and 25. And you look at what he's done. I mean, the Michigan had a great defense. The Chargers had a great defense a great defense this year statistically for the rankings. So you look at them and go, hey, he could maybe it's a McDonald's situation like in Seattle, that he can really shore up the defense, have a great to elite defense potentially, and Lamar and the offense can do enough to win the game. You look at what they've done with him and Derrick Henry. It's amazing what they can do. Even with Derrick Henry having a down season, still had the opportunity to be the leading rusher in the league in Week 18. He's still running pretty strong at his age. Lamar Jackson is a two-time MVP, multiple team, first team All-Pro. He can play well at will. I know he definitely had a up and down season with injuries and just really underwhelming and being lackluster at moments, but he still has the capability of going nuclear. He still has a game of having a perfect passer rating game, a perfect game if you want to call it as. He's still capable of doing that. Look what he did in 2024, over 40 touchdown passes, and what he was able to do there. Maybe he should have won the MVP. I'm not going to get into that conversation, but has been worthy of that. Has shown you to do that. There is question marks in, of course, the playoffs. Maybe a situation where hey, we can get back to an elite defense and we can really tighten things up there on that side of the ball, and the offense can have more opportunities to win the games there. So again, a little bit surprised they go in that direction. Who knows? I mean, the Ravens are a well-ran organization. It's been a long time since they've hired a head coach, of course, with John Harbaugh being there since 2008. But if there's any organization I trust to make this bold decision, I trust the Ravens. I don't trust the Dolphins. I don't trust the Titans for those moves. I trust the Ravens. Again, maybe a little bit, you take a step back, a little surprised by it. I trust the organization, how they've been run for their entire existence. It's been great. It has. I mean, outside of the 2000 Super Bowl, yes, you had that small period of time where it was a little up and down there, but especially in the Harbaugh era, the guy's been there for 18 years. I mean, he was doing something right, even though people were advocating, and even for me too, that there needed to be change either last year, the year before, and so forth. I mean, people probably for years now have been clamoring for a change, but they've been successful. They have been, and they've been certainly one of the better, well-ran organizations in the league. They've shown that they've won Super Bowls before, and so forth. So if I trust any team to make maybe a little bit of a surprise pick here, I trust the Baltimore Ravens at this point here. I'm not going to question it. I think I'm going to trust what they do because of what they've done in other aspects of their franchise and what they've done in previous years. I trust the decision for Jesse Minter. Now moving on to the last selection here for the Falcons early on in the process too. On January 17th, hire Kevin Stefanski as the head coach, and this could be I think this is a good hire. I do. You look at for what he has there. He has the running back, of course, in Bijan Robinson, one of the best, however you want to rank him as, in that one first-team All-Pro this year for Bijan. You look at Kyle Pitts. We'll see what happens with him in his future if they decide to extend him, but did have a good year this year. You have Drake London. You do have a good offensive line. Defense is promising. Have some young pieces on that side of the ball as well. So you're looking more at the offensive mind for Stefanski on that side. Unfortunately, even though it's a better situation than Cleveland, you do have question marks at quarterback like Cleveland. It's not as bad, of course, because you still have Kirk Cousins, who could still play well, is still a solid quarterback. It's more so, unfortunately, with Michael Penix, of what his future is going to be. Unfortunately, getting another brutal injury in his playing career when you go back to college and his resume there as well, and now looking at what he did in the NFL early on with another brutal injuries, another season-ending injury. We'll see what happens with him next year if he even steps on the field again. With that, they want to be safe with him and wait towards the end of the year. However it plays out, again, it all depends on how successful the season is. If Kirk Cousins is playing well, do you throw Penix back in there and kind of mess up things? Probably not. But again, look at the quarterback situation as I look at right now with Kirk Cousins, with Bijan, with Kyle Pitts. Again, depending on what happens with them, with Drake London, I think this is certainly a great spot for Kevin Stefanski in his offensive mind, and certainly going back, certainly we can all agree far better situation than Cleveland. When you look at Shedeur Sanders, Dillon Gabriel, you look at not too much a running game at some points these last few years. I mean, Quentin Jenkins was a great pickup. I know controversial in the beginning, didn't sign his contract right away, dragged out a little bit off the field issues, played well, unfortunately, late in the season against the Bills. Had a season-ending injury, is going to be out for a little bit. Again, don't know what his timetable is going to be. I'm sure they'll be a little cautious with them going into next year. But you look at the quarterback situation, again, Sanders, Dillon Gabriel. Yeah, Joe Flacco play out at one point there. Outside of Quinshon Jenkins, nothing too crazy outside of that receiving game. Very iffy. I mean, you have a promising pick, a great pickup in the Arnold Finnan Jr., 731, 6 touchdowns he had there. Outside of that, very lackluster. Jerry Jeudy only had 602 yards, 2 touchdowns. Isaiah Bond didn't really do anything, 338, 0 touchdowns. Dave Njoku, 293 for 4 touchdowns in 12 games. Cedric Tillman, 270, 2 touchdowns. And that's pretty much about it. So very, very, very lackluster there. Falcons, it's a huge upgrade. No question about that. I do think, again, I think it's a great fit there. I like the direction they went with the offensive minds, given the piece they have there, because I think he can really elevate them and play better. He did. I think he's shown that in his Browns tenure at times when he does have pieces of how well the offense can play when given the resources, when given the adequate players to complement Stefanski. So we'll see how that plays out there. But I'm not too upset with that. I'm not upset at all that they hired Stefanski. I think it is a good pickup. I think he will do well there. I'm not going to sit here and say conference championship, Super Bowl, stuff like that. I don't know. But certainly when you look at the division that is at question right now, you look at the Saints of how they're going to be next year. Still rebuilding that process. The Buccaneers had a collapse late in the season. We'll see how they are next year. With all things considered, you'd look at the Panthers, where yes, they did make the playoffs, but they were 8-9 in the year, got in by default, really in that aspect. And question marks with Bryce Young and other aspects of the team. So there's still a lot of uncertainty with the division. It's up there for taking, and no question, I think Stefanski, in that aspect at least, can take full advantage of that. I think they can. I think they can take full advantage of that questionable division, if you want to phrase it as, and win his first year as a head coach, given the talent that he has there. Because I really like what he has at the Falcons at this point here. You look at Darnell Mooney as well. I think it's a solid option too. Not crazy on the stat sheet, 443, 1 touchdown, but still is a nice complementary piece on an offense. Not saying he's a wide receiver too, but a nice piece as well on the offense. If you look at Bijan, had over 800 yards receiving, Drake London 919, Kyle Pitts was your leading receiver at 928. And you look at for the running game too, you have a nice complementary back with Robinson and Algier, 514, 8 touchdowns too on top of that. A nice 1-2 combo there as well. So we'll see. And Kirk Cousins, when he stepped in 10 games, over 1,700 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So again, overall, I think there is a lot of things there too. You look at the defense as well for the team. Looking at some notable pieces here, you have James Pierce Jr. in his rookie season, 10.5 sacks there. You have Jalen Walker, 5.5 linebacker there as well. You have a nice safety in Jesse Bates as well. You have AJ Terrell Jr. too on top of that. So there is some promising pieces on that side of the ball. Hopefully they can get the kicking situation right on that side on special teams. But overall, I think there is a lot of promising pieces. Xavier Watts too on top of that. I think it was a great selection from out of Notre Dame. So there is a lot of young promising pieces all across the board there. And I don't know what else you can really go with it. Maybe you could think the Falcons should have waited a little bit longer. I mean, so they're in the run for Harbaugh. That would have been certainly a better selection there with Harbaugh, but everything outside of that, there wasn't really too much left to go for. I mean, if you wanted to criticize them, say, hey, they should have waited longer to make the pick. I mean, of course, they weren't going to get Mike Tomlin. Sean McDermott wasn't fired at that point there. Again, that was kind of really looking at everything, all things considered. That was really, I think, the next best head coach at that point there for the head coaching cycle. Again, if you want Kubiak, if you want for Davis Webb, whoever you want, the Rams coaching staff, or if you want to put there Shula, whoever you want to kind of draw straws from any of the playoff teams still remaining. This was certainly the best option. Were they afraid that Kevin Stefanski was going to get picked up instantly by someone else like Tennessee? I don't know where else where Kevin Stefanski was interviewing, but you're worried about other teams kind of poaching him. Maybe the Ravens at that point, maybe the Titans, maybe the Dolphins. You were kind of just worried that you didn't want to gamble the situation and you want to take Kevin Stefanski right now at the point here. Again, I like the hire. I think it's a solid option. One of the better hires in the coaching cycle as right now compared to, like I said, between the Dolphins, between the Titans too. On top of that, we will see how it plays out there. But again, I think one of the better hires in this coaching cycle. Teams are mating for a head coach right now. We are down to a few. We have the Las Vegas Raiders still. We don't know anything about that. Pete Carroll fired January 5th. Cleveland Browns still looking for that. Their head coach having their whole analytic essays, personality, quizzes, and all that stuff, how that plays out. Stefanski was fired January 5th, so they're still finding their head coach too. The Buffalo Bills was probably the last remaining notable team to try and find their head coach. I mean, certainly question marks for everyone else, but a lot of people kind of on the edge of the seats of who the Bills are going to hire after firing Sean McDermott January 19th. Still through a lot of process there. It looks like for betting odds, and even being a Bills fan, hearing reports and stuff like that, it feels like as right now, even though it's not going to be hopefully it's not Philip Rivers that you put out there, that the betting favorite, the odds likely look at Brian Daboll to be a reunion with Josh Allen and being the next head coach there. We will still wait and see there. It's hard to pinpoint really anyone else. It feels like for the most part, again, it looks like that Brian Daboll will be the head coach for the Bills. Don't know anything about that yet, but still waiting for the Bills in their lengthy process too, as well as Arizona. I haven't heard too much of a lot of progress with the head coaching position there. A lot of, I'm not sure with the candidates yet as of right now. I don't know what they're going to go in that direction too. It's a very, again, along with the Browns, very uncertain of how things are going to play out with the Cardinals at that point there. So the best option available left is the Bills. You look at the quarterback situations, the roster, a better organization than the rest of the teams. Certainly the Vegas is enticing because of the first overall pick, presumably going to be Mendoza. You look at too with Jenny, Brock Bowers, and a little, Max Crosby and so forth. There is some enticing pieces there to be, as well, along with the salary cap too. On top of that, so there's a lot of things that aren't on the team already, but certainly a lot of resources and a lot of ammunition to really build and mold the team that you want there. So again, those are the 4 teams as right now, still waiting for word on a head coach to be hired there: Arizona, Buffalo, Cleveland, and Las Vegas. And that's going to wrap it up there too for this video for episode 9 of the SportsBruiserz Podcast. Again, I apologize. I'm kind of a little bit all over the place there. A lot of information trying to remember, a lot of information putting things together in this one. Episode 10 will be coming shortly in the next few days. It won't be as long as a wait like we did for episode 9 here. Again, unfortunately, with the weather and so forth, kind of playing a factor into it, not be able to get back home and make this video here. And two, I know there's plenty of other discussions, other news happening in between that time as well that I've missed, but I want to quickly recap the divisional round and my AFC Championship predictions, look at the college football playoffs, get my quick word on Indiana and how it played out there, as well as the coaching progress too. On top of that, like I said, we did mention Mendoza did declare for the NFL draft, presumably being the first overall pick there. So I appreciate you guys stayed at the end to hear this. Again, if you like what you heard, follow me on Spotify, follow me on YouTube, Twitter. If you want to get everything else I report there, where I tweet out or make quick videos, shorts, and so forth. I appreciate appreciate you guys listening, sticking around, and we'll see you for episode 10 when it does come out in the next few days.